Hi, it's Bumble. Welcome back to my channel. So, I don't really talk about TV shows in here too much. I think I maybe have like once so far. I don't remember. But this is one I really liked. I actually just finished it. Each episode is about like 15 minutes. Oh, hold on a second. Let me take off my retainer really quick. Okay, there we go. Sorry. I always feel like when I have my retainer on when I'm talking and I hear myself, my speech sounds a little off, and then I can't really focus. Yeah, each episode's 15 minutes, so the whole thing, because at least at the time I'm recording this in February 2026, it's one season. I'm assuming with the nature of the show, that it's probably just going to be one season, but I think that's fine. So each episode's 15 minutes. So the whole thing, I think there's like 5 or 6 episodes, ends up being like roughly about half an hour. So it doesn't take too long to get through. This has kind of been on my radar for a while. I think found out about it on like Twitter or something, and then I saw this in HBO Max, and I actually had been planning to watch a movie instead. I actually sat through like half an hour of a couple of movies. So I kind of wasted an hour, and I realized, oh, I don't want to watch any of these actually, or that I wasn't enjoying them. And it's already kind of like late at night, so I just wanted something to watch to end the day. And this was perfect. This was the perfect length and everything. But yeah, I really liked this a lot. The entire series is in Spanish, but it does have subtitles. The only thing was that around like the 4th or 5th episode, the subtitles, there was like an issue with the subtitles and the audio, which happens to me sometimes on streaming services, usually with Netflix though. But I've only really noticed it for some reason with shows that I'm watching that aren't in English. I don't know why, because I've had that problem with some anime on Netflix as well, where it's like the audio is going faster than the subtitles, and that happened here. And I mean, it's like the episodes are slow enough where it was like fine, but it meant that sometimes like a character would move and I wouldn't know why they were moving or making a certain expression until the subtitle popped up. Because I understand like a little bit of Spanish, but I'm not fluent. But there was also some times where the characters were talking really fast, and then the subtitle hadn't popped up yet, so then I couldn't figure out because they were speaking so quickly, especially the title character Frankelda. Sometimes she gets like really excited and talks very quickly, and then I wasn't able to kind of keep up. But I mean, even with the episodes where the audio was messed up a little bit with the subtitles, it wasn't that very long of a delay, so I could still, figure out what was going on. It was just like a little more annoying on, but that's not like the show's fault. It's probably something with the streaming service. I tried restarting my TV as well. That didn't fix it, and I only noticed that problem like towards the end of the series. So but yeah, it's a stop motion show, and it looks really good. Honestly, I always like with stop motion, because everything's handmade, with like the characters, are usually like these like clay sort of figures and stuff. And you can just really see the materials of everything, and I always loved that with stop motion. I love the art style as well for the characters. There's something about it reminds me of, but I can't think of what it is. So yeah, each episode is 15 minutes, and it's like this anthology series where every episode is like a different story. I didn't realize it was going to be that. I thought it was going to be about this like ghost character going on adventures and stuff. I mean, it is about Frankelda as well. In that after you have like the title sequence and everything. Oh yeah, there's music in this. I want to mention about that really quick. The title song, first off, is really good. It's like kind of spooky and dramatic. There's like a spooky vibe to everything with the show. That's like kind of the point though. And every episode has a musical number as well, and they're all really good. Honestly, that was the fun part of it. But yeah, every episode has like a story, or is like an individual story, but before and after the stories, you have Frankelda and this like book character. That the book that she writes in is sentient and stuff. And you learn a little bit more of their situation in that they are trapped inside of a sentient house and they're trying to escape. And every time they tell a story, it helps them grow stronger to like further figure out how to escape. So it's like a story within between like stories that's kind of going on. You get like bits and pieces of, which I thought really was cool. And there's also even like a whole intro before you even get to see Frankelda, where there's this like owl and spider character, and I didn't understand what it meant at first until the final story, which is like Frankelda's origin story. But the other episodes are basically about these children, and they have some kind of wish, and there's some kind of what's referred to in this series as a spook. That's why it's called Book of Spooks, which are like these ancient magical beings and whatever, and monsters and things, and they like help the characters, but it always kind of comes at as a cost. And every story actually has a bad ending, which the characters do address, but I liked that element. I thought it was kind of cool. I was assuming that the series was for kids because of like the lessons it tries to teach. It almost reminded me of like watching Courage the Cowardly Dog when I was younger, a little bit of being like that kind of spooky but not like scary or anything. And I actually really liked it. Or I imagine this is probably what Goosebumps is like as well. I've never watched the show or read the books or anything. Actually, I watched like a movie about it or something, but I feel like it's probably would give that kind of vibe to people as well. Frankelda's a cool character. She's this ghost that just basically shares all these stories she writes, and she gets like very excited about it and stuff. Like she's like a friendly character that's passionate about her stories, and you kind of figure out like why she's so excited about it when you get to her origin story at the end. I think her character design is cool. Of like, I mean, she's, you know, like a little figure like all the other characters are made of, but they also make her look kind of a bit transparent because she's supposed to be a ghost. I don't really know how completely like how they do that, but I thought that's just cool. And I also like, she's very like animated as well, because she's like always flying around and moving and stuff, and her face does this thing I really like where it gets kind of like distorted and older looking whenever she gets angry. That's probably part of the being a ghost thing. I'd actually assumed that, you know, because it's about like magical creatures and stuff, that she was just kind of naturally a ghost, but you get like this whole origin story at the end that I'll talk about when I get there, where she turns out to be a human and stuff. And there was still like questions I had at the end of the series, but I was reading on Wikipedia that there is a movie. I don't remember if it's a prequel or a sequel, but it's like specifically about Frankelda, which is great because they give you like a little bit of her story like in between the episodes, but also as the final episode. But I feel like there's things I was still wondering about. Specifically that her book is actually like a transformed person, and they never really explain about that. Okay, anyway, let me talk about the episodes themselves. So yeah, each episode's a different story. So the first story is about this boy who like constantly has to do homework, and he makes this deal with this like demonic gnome in exchange for his name. And like as soon as the gnome mentioned, which I didn't even realize it was a gnome, it looks like some kind of like goblin or whatever. As soon as it mentioned the part of like, yeah, I could like do this thing for you, but you just have to give me your name, and I'm thinking like, no, because you always hear in like fairy tales or about like the fae or whatever, if you like give someone your name, they have like power over you. I mean, it's even also the thing with like Spirited Away too, like you never give magical creatures your name. So the gnome ends up, because like all of these kids in these stories make some kind of deal. Actually, except the one about the evil mermaid, I forgot about that. Most of the kids make some kind of deal with the magical creature, and they think they're going to get what they want, but it's like, it's kind of like Genie Wishes, where it ends up getting twisted in some way, where they're kind of tricked, but also it's like a warning of like, hey, be careful what you wish for, sort of thing. So the kid doesn't want to do his homework, and the gnome is like, okay, I'm going to take your name, and you're going to be able to do whatever you want, but in taking the kid's name, and the gnome at least does do the kids' homework and stuff. He basically takes the boy's identity. So it's like his parents don't recognize him, but it also means that the gnome takes his identity. So but he also basically switches places with the gnome, where he becomes like the new gnome, where he like also physically transforms into a gnome. The gnome doesn't turn into the boy. They don't like literally switch bodies or anything, but he has the kid's name. So he basically like he has the gnome appearance, but is living the kid's life and everything. And you even get to see that he lives like the boy's entire life of like finishing school, dating, whatever, and the boy turns into a gnome, and it becomes like a never-ending cycle where he has to find other kids and try to take their place, because he realizes like, wow, being a gnome sucks. I want to go back to like living as a human. So it's like this whole cycle with these like gnomes or whatever. I thought that one was kind of okay. Not like my favorite of all of them, but I thought it was interesting. I didn't expect the kid to like actually get turned into a gnome. And then the second story is about this girl that wants to make friends, and she ends up meeting these witches, and they say they can help her make friends, but it's one that's about like transformation and stuff. And then at the end of the story, the girls turn into a bat. I had a feeling it was going to go wrong somehow, of like, I noticed that there was these animals in cages, and I thought like, okay, these are probably other transformed kids because they have too many like accessories and hats and things. I do like that throughout the episode you keep seeing stuff related to bats with this girl. Like she has a bike helmet that has like little bat wings and stuff, and that it's just specifically that she wants like a Halloween costume originally to be able to go to like a Halloween party to try to make friends. But then she gets transformed into a bat, but then she loses the ability to speak, so then she can't interact with anyone. I liked that story a little bit better than the first one. I think the third story because I think there's like 5. I think the third, fourth, and fifth story were the ones that I really liked. The third story, I feel like I found the most kind of interesting or kind of memorable out of the ones that are just specifically about the kids, though. The third story is about this boy who has to rescue his friends from an evil mermaid. It was a cool little thing that the main character, he has a lunchbox like at the beginning of the episode that literally just has Finn and Jake on it from Adventure Time. Not like a version of them to fit with the story or anything like that. You know how sometimes they'll have references to characters, but they change them up a little bit? No, it's like literally Finn and Jake. I thought that was cool. So in the story, the boy, it's like his friends are swimming and he doesn't want to join them because he doesn't want them to see what he looks like underneath his clothes, which at first I thought it was going to be something kind of like, it's going to be some kind of twist related to that, but no, he looks normal. He's just like embarrassed of the way he looks. And the kids end up, the kids that are swimming, there's like this mermaid that shows up that's like, hey, you want to go swim somewhere else? And they all go with her. The kids are originally swimming in like really gross water, and it's like green, and you'd think that would be the water that's dangerous, but it's actually the like clean, crystal clear water that they end up getting taken to, because that's the one that has the evil mermaid. And I like that in all of these there's some kind of like, actually except for the story with the gnome, actually I don't think the kid had any warnings, except the songs. All of the songs, you know, every episode has a song. All of the songs pretty much are sung by the creatures, like the spooks that are trying to trick these kids. And the songs do kind of have lyrics a little bit that usually towards the end of the song that are hinting to like what the character is actually trying to do, but the kids aren't really paying attention to the songs or anything. But yeah, with the mermaid story, the water that the kids get taken to by the mermaid has this giant statue of an evil looking mermaid in it. You'd think they'd like notice that or something. But the evil mermaid isn't the one that takes the kids to the water. It's the evil mermaid of the pond is like the other mermaid's like mom or something. So it's like an even bigger mermaid. I like her design. She looks like an evil like axolotl or something. I've never seen like a mermaid design that looks like that's like based on an axolotl, so I thought that was pretty cool. The mermaid song is cool. The mermaid song and then the song for the next episode, which is about the boogeyman, they both sound like very operatic. But especially the mermaid song, I think that one was one of my favorites. I guess I have more notes about the third story about the evil mermaid because I feel like that ending, besides like out of the ones that are like specifically based on the kids, that one feels the one that's the most like kind of darker in a way, because like the first kid gets turned into a gnome, but like he seems like fine as a gnome mostly, and the second kid gets turned into a bat, and the fourth kid gets just has the ability to not feel emotion anymore. Okay, that does kind of suck actually. But the third kid, he goes to try to rescue his friends, and you think it's going to be like a happy ending thing because that's how it's played out, where he is able to get over his fears and he rescues and goes into the water and rescues them. Or no, he finds a way to stop the mermaid and he rescues them and it's fine. And then it turns out it's actually a bad ending where the mermaid already has the kid under a spell because he gave in to his fears. So she's having him trapped in this illusion where he thinks he's in the happy ending of like he saved everybody, but he's not, and they're all actually just, all of kids are like hypnotized basically, and they're probably going to drown. So I think because not just because it tricks you with the happy ending, but the fact that the kid is basically almost stuck unconscious in a way where he thinks that he's won but he's not. I feel like that makes it one of the more darker endings. And then the fifth story is about this girl that plays the theremin, and she gets bullied for it because all the kids think like it sounds like a howling dog or whatever, and they think her instrument's weird. I've seen videos of like people playing the theremin. I always thought it looked and sounded really cool actually. But anyway, and then this guy that's basically like the boogeyman, like another spook, shows up, and he has an obsession with music, but he doesn't have any talent. And she asks the boogeyman, well, I thought it was going to be that she asked the boogeyman to take away her passion for music, but it's more like he just kind of pesters her into it, basically. Because at first she doesn't give in, and she goes to this talent show, and she tries to play, and the kids all make fun of her, and he's like, hey, the boogeyman is like, hey, you'd be happier if I took away your passion for music, and then the kids wouldn't bully you anymore, or something like that. So she gets it taken away, and her passion is taken in the form of like this sort of ghost or whatever that's like removed out of her. Not in the same way of like Frankelda being a ghost, but it's more of like it's like another version of yourself, basically. That gets taken as like the boogeyman's prisoner, and it turns out he's taken a bunch of other kids so he can make his own band, though not all of the kids are musicians, but I guess he only really uses the ones that are musicians and makes his own like ghost band or whatever. Not really that they're ghosts, it's just that your passion is taken away. And then the girl mentions at the end that she can't feel anything anymore and then cries. So I don't think it's specifically that like her emotions are taken away. I think it's more of like with her passion taken away, she doesn't really have like the will to do anything, and it ends there. So that one's like pretty dark as well. And then as these spirits are kind of singing and stuff, you also learn a bit of like what the spooks are, and there's sort of lore with the spooks themselves, where it's basically like they used to rule the world and now humans rule the world because they like banished the spooks into the shadows and stuff. And the spooks, I think, are only able to exist like if humans fear them. But then these specific spooks seem like they're punishing these kids as like a vengeance thing. And it's not really like the kids themselves are doing anything to the spooks. It's more so of like they have problems that the spooks offer to solve, and the kids immediately are just like, yeah, sure, and they're not really sure what they're signing up for. So those are all the stories with the kids. And then the final story is the one that's about Frankelda and how she becomes prisoner of this house and stuff. And I like that you don't really know what the house is. It's like her and the book character, they talk about you're gonna wake up the person that's keeping us here, whatever, you have to not say his name, be careful and whatever. and then it turns out that the house itself, well, that it's not really that the house itself is sentient that they're trapped in. It's more of like their tormentor transformed himself into the house, basically. It's like a whole weird thing, and I still don't really get that. But it's basically that you learn about Frankelda when she was immortal, that she had to work all day for her family, and writing is like her form of her escapism, but she also loves writing horror stories. But it's like this whole thing from her family of like, not only that like girls shouldn't be writers, but they also don't really like her stories. And there's this owl person. Like, I had assumed that the owl person eventually gets transformed into her book just because they have the same eyebrows and stuff, which I ended up being correct about that. But there's this owl person who is like the Prince of Spooks, and when they're both kids or something, he's like reading her stories or whatever, but he never actually tries to talk to her or anything, and he only goes to find her as an adult, where he's like, hey, everything you've written is actually real, and she doesn't know that. And it's basically like every time Frankelda writes something, while she's still like a human and stuff, she like gets a glimpse of the spook world or whatever, and then they end up singing a song. And I thought it was cool that the song for the last episode is the song that's from the intro, but you get the context that it's like actually a poem that's written by Frankelda, and it's like a nice little duet between like her and the owl person. I thought that was pretty cool. So then he ends up taking her consciousness to the spirit world, and that's the part where I start getting confused, where it's basically like he promises her that she'll gain like a new audience or something, and that he wants her to be it's basically, there's like this spider person who's the person that writes all these like comes up with all these ways to spook humans, but it's like not working anymore. And he basically, the owl person, wants Frankelda to become this writer to make new ways for like spooks to scare people, and Frankelda's cool with that, and she thinks it's going to be a way for her, because she not only wants to write her stories, but she wants to be like recognized for them and stuff, not in a way of like she's only doing it for fame, but just she wants to be known for them and stuff. So the owl person takes her to the spirit worlds, and I don't really know how things go wrong from there. I'm assuming that's what the movie's going to be about, because what Frankelda eventually finds out is that it's a one-way ticket, because he mentions of like, oh, only your consciousness can go, so she's basically turned into a ghost. But I don't think it's that she's like dead, though. I mean, possibly, because it's like her consciousness is being taken away, and she finds out later, like much, much later, that she can't go back. But I mean, she didn't technically die. It kind of looked more like it was an astral projection thing, and her body is still like left on Earth. So, and it's not like the owl person, the owl person, the Prince of Spooks or whatever, isn't doing it in a way similar to how like the spooks were punishing the kids, where it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to screw you over on purpose. Because I guess him and Frankelda at some point end up as like lovers, so he doesn't actually plan to hurt her. He's like her biggest fan. It's just that he's like trying to help her, but then somehow it ends up getting screwed up, and they end up trapped inside of this house. And it's like the spider that you see at the intro, like not the intro, but like the beginning of the first episode, turns out to be the house that they're trapped in, who's like a spider and also their house at the same time. I don't know how he got transformed. I don't know how the owl person gets transformed. The show never really addresses that. But then the episode ends where Frankelda and the book, they're able to like escape, but then the book ends up getting stuck there, and Frankelda goes to rescue him. And then the season ends there, and I was like, oh, because I was really hoping it wouldn't, not like I needed more episodes. I didn't really, like, I liked the episodes with the kids, but I was like more invested in like Frankelda and the stuff going on. And I was hoping the season wouldn't end there, just because I wanted to know more about that storyline and if it gets resolved. But yeah, I did read on Wikipedia it was listed as either like a prequel or a sequel, that there's a movie called I'm Frankelda. I don't know if it was made before or after the series, but that one is specifically supposed to focus on her and her storyline. So I gotta track that down at some point. I don't know if it's on like HBO Max or something. I'll have to see. And then the credits are also really cool. The credits for each episode not only show you the like hand-drawn concept art and everything for the characters and stuff, but it also shows the sculpting process for the characters and for everything. And I think that's really cool to include, especially as like the credits thing too, of like you get to watch the whole episode and then you get to see like how the elements of it are created and stuff. But yeah, it's a really cool series. I doubt there's probably going to be another season. I mean, it would be cool if they continue, because it's like, you know, it's possible, because it's all, except for the Frankelda stuff, it's all just like standalone stories anyway. So you could make like an infinite amount of them in that sense. But you know, there's still more to the Frankelda storyline. But I'm assuming it gets told more through the movie, and those are the only two things I know about for this series. So I'm hoping the movie solves it. I still have to find a way to watch it, but even without the movie, and if you just take it as it is, as the show, I mean, that's what I have to do because I haven't seen the movie. It's really fun to watch. I feel like it's not only that it's stop motion, but just like the art style and just personality of the characters and everything that makes me kind of more invested. Like the lessons that the kids learn is just, it's like kind of like I guess, because it's, you know, supposed to be for kids, I'm assuming, or it kind of feels that way. But it's like the characters themselves and stuff, and the Frankelda things is the stuff I was kind of more interested in. But yeah, I still think it's cool. I always just really like stop motion series, honestly. I don't really get to watch them much. I mostly just watch the ones that are made by, what is it, Aardman, I think, that the people that make Wallace and Gromit. Those are the kind of, in terms of stop motion, the stuff that I'm like more familiar with. But yeah, always cool to get something new. I think this is something I could definitely probably tell my friends about as well. I feel like they'd be interested in. If we track down the movie, maybe we could all like watch it together or something. I'll have to see. But yeah, I don't know if there's going to be any more shows I'm going to talk about, but I just wanted to talk about this one because I thought it was really good, but also the episodes are so short, it's like easy to talk about. And I mean, I gave like the very basics with the plot. I mean, I did also spoil every ending, but the plot, it's like very, I just kind of touched upon all of them, so I feel like it's easier if you wanted to watch it, it kind of just makes more sense and stuff. But yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on it. It was pretty cool. I recommend it. All right, bye bye. Thanks for watching.